Welcome to Mild Moodcast, a podcast meant to explore mental health through the lens of another human hanging on by a thread. I'm Bianca, a registered mental health counselor intern, soon to be LMHC, here to chat about the topics we don't get enough of. So grab your headphones and let's dive into the crazy world of mental health. It's going to be a wild ride. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Mild Moodcast. As you've already been able to see, this episode is called Becoming Someone You Haven't Met Yet. I thought that this was going to be a really good episode because I talk a lot about ways to elevate your life, ways to improve your life, ways to look back at the things that shaped you, the things that hurt you, the things that you learned to love. And we don't talk a lot about what happens when you're transitioning into a different version of yourself. So I'm going to jump into the disclaimer and then we will get started with what I like to call the hallway between versions. As always, while my podcast is meant to spark reflection and curiosity, it's not a replacement for therapy. If you're navigating heavy emotions or challenges, please reach out to a professional. Therapy is a safe space to process and grow. If it's your first time listening to one of my episodes, I just want to say welcome. And if you have been here before, thank you for coming back. Whether you've listened to one, whether you've listened to all, or somewhere in between, I appreciate you. And please don't forget to share this to somebody who might need it. So you know the feeling when you're not quite who you used to be, but you're also not yet who you're becoming? That weird middle ground that feels like emotional jet lag. That's what I want to talk about today. Because I think a lot of us are walking through that hallway right now. It's where you've outgrown old habits, relationships, coping mechanisms, but you haven't really stepped into something new yet. You haven't become the next version of yourself. It's kind of terrifying, right? You're floating. You're in motion. And even though that sounds beautiful, in practice, it feels like chaos. But at least when you were in survival mode, you had structure, right? You knew what to expect from yourself. You knew your default reactions. But we don't want that anymore because now you catch yourself choosing differently, thinking differently, wanting different things, and you're proud of that. But also low-key confused, like, wait, who am I? And that's what I call the hallway. You're not at the door yet, but you've already closed the last one. You're just in the space between. And that space, that's sacred. But it can also feel really lonely. I felt like this was just a really important topic to talk about today because you really don't hear about it. You hear about who a person used to be. You hear about who they are now. But I like to focus on the journey because, as I've said in other episodes, the journey is just as important, if not more, than the destination. Well, let's talk about the fear of becoming someone you don't recognize. Because this right here, that's what makes the hallway even harder. Sometimes, not only are you confused, you're scared. And often, not scared of failure, but scared of becoming someone you don't recognize. And let's be real, some people are afraid of failure too. And it's not even that you don't want to grow, you do. But your growth brings in a version of you that you've never met. So your nervous system's like, hold on, I don't know this person. I don't know what they want. I don't know what they're capable of. And because you don't know them, it's hard to believe you're worthy of becoming them. You're not sure if you'll be lovable in that version, if you'll be accepted, if you'll belong. And when you don't have a clear picture of who that next version is, because let's be real, most people have no idea. You've never lived that life. How could you know what it looks like when you get there? That makes it tempting to go back to where you were. Not because it brought you joy, definitely not because it brought you joy, but because it was familiar. And sometimes we choose familiarity over peace, just because it's easier to measure. But just because you don't recognize this version yet, doesn't mean it isn't already part of you. There's a common misconception that says, I don't know who that is, therefore I don't know if I can become them. I don't know if I'll be worthy enough. I don't know if I'll be able to maintain it. But the crazy part is you're not waiting to become. You are becoming. Even if you don't know what the destination looks like, you're already shifting. You're already showing up in new ways. You're just scared to trust that it's real. And that's okay. This is that journey. You're already living it. You're already doing it in so many different ways, even if they aren't the most major ways maybe to your brain that determines that a person has changed. Congratulate yourself for the field that you're in right now, for the plane that you're on, for this hallway time. Even if you've chosen differently 3 out of 5 times, that's 3 times you never chose before. You are living it. And it's okay to be nervous about what comes after, what comes in the time where you're living it fully. You know, I always like to say that we don't need to know everything. We just have to try. And I mean that wholeheartedly. And let's talk about, mourning the old you without shame, because of course, grief comes with growth. Like, yeah, we're healing and evolving and all that, but let's not pretend that that doesn't come with loss. There are parts of you that you have to leave behind. Not because they were bad, but because they were only built for survival. And now you're reaching for more than just surviving. Still, it hurts. You look back at that version of yourself and you remember how hard you tried, how much you carried, how much you tolerated. And even if you're proud of where you are now, there's still a sadness there. You might miss that version of yourself even while you're growing beyond it. And I want you to know, in the same way that I'll validate anything when it comes to growth, that is valid. That is real. You don't have to hate who you were to move on. You can grieve and still grow. You can say thank you while still letting go. And I really want to emphasize that thanking of yourself. Not because you made all the right choices, not because everything you did caused a smile. No, it was probably messy. There were probably moments where things felt shitty, where you were shitty to other people, but you are thanking that former protection because it served its purpose. We get caught in these grief loops of, I can't move forward because I was so bad to people. I can't move forward because I trapped myself here. And I would encourage you in this moment to say thank you. Thank you for getting me through that time, and let it go. You're not betraying yourself by evolving. You're honoring your past and choosing your future. Something I used to struggle with is feeling like I couldn't label my growth. If I couldn't post about it, if I couldn't show it, then it didn't count. And maybe that's what we're taught. That transformation needs to be seen, to be validated. But that's not true. Some of your biggest growth moments are going to happen when no one is watching, when it's quiet, when you're brushing your teeth and suddenly realize you're not talking to yourself the way you used to. When you choose rest without guilt. When you don't chase people who don't see your worth. That stuff counts. It's not flashy, but it's real. And I want you to give yourself credit for that. Progress doesn't always look like a new job or a changed relationship or even a big aha moment. Sometimes it looks like emotional regulation. Sometimes it looks like walking away instead of lashing out. Sometimes it looks like peace. And that peace, that's worth celebrating, even if no one claps for it but you. Personally, my current struggle is allowing myself to experience joy while some things are still upsetting, dark, frustrating. Knowing that I have done intense amounts of work and that I don't forever have to be a project. That I can look at what I've done and just smile and experience joy. And you would think that enjoying something would be easy for people. But when you're someone like me, you feel like you have to be constantly putting in work to get something rather than just enjoying it. They say something along the lines of, you prayed for this at one point, and you're kind of too busy still looking for the next thing to be able to enjoy it. This is definitely one of those moments for me where I prayed for this. I prayed for this clarity. I prayed for being able to feel this light, and yet I still push for what's next, what's coming in my life, what's happening, wanting to not have to plan it, but just be aware of it. So, I say these things and I talk about these topics on these episodes, not because I know that they are foolproof, but because I'm going through it myself. Because tons of other people are going through these moments in their lives where they want to be able to celebrate where they are, and then they also don't wake up to the fact that they're still just pushing. And the thing about that is you miss the magic along the way when you're constantly looking for the next thing. If we're going to stop living in survival mode, it means we have to enjoy where we are for what it is. What is it that you can do today that maybe you couldn't do a week ago, a month ago, 6 months ago? And sit with that. We deserve joy. It's a birthright. We don't have to have everything figured out. We don't have to have made every change in the world, every change on our list in order to feel joy. Joy is within us and we just have to tap into it. Let's talk about grounding yourself while you grow. If you're still in the hallway, if you're still in the thick of that in between, I want to give you a few ways to hold yourself through it. Not to fix it, not to rush it, just to ground yourself while you grow. You can start with this. Ask yourself, what am I releasing? And what do I want to embody? Or try writing a letter from the version of yourself you're becoming. What would they say to you? How would they encourage you? How would they celebrate how far you've already come? You could create a tiny ritual, light a candle, breathe deeply, say something kind to yourself before bed. Anything that helps you feel like this process isn't random, that it's sacred, that it's safe. Because it is. It's safe to change. It's safe to be unfamiliar, even to yourself. You don't need to be fully formed to be fully worthy. You're allowed to be in progress. And I truly hope you hear that. Because I know that society makes us feel like we have to show perfection. We have to be 100% in one direction to be changed, but that's not the truth. I'll end with this. You're not broken. You're not lost. You're not behind. You're becoming. And no, it doesn't always feel good, but that doesn't mean it's wrong. You're stepping into someone you haven't met yet. And yeah, they might feel like a stranger at first, but they're not. They've already been there. You're just finally giving that part of yourself space. So take your time. Honor your shifts. Be proud. And remember, the in-between isn't a failure. It's the transformation. And the version of you that you're becoming, they're not ahead of you. They're already within you. You're just letting them lead now. Thanks for listening, guys. Have an amazing week. Bye. Thanks for tuning in to Mild Moodcast. Remember, the conversation doesn't end here. If you have any burning questions or topics you'd like me to cover, don't hesitate to reach out. You can find me on YouTube at Mild Moodcast and Instagram at Mild Mood Therapy. Let's keep the conversation going and continue to explore the wonderful world of mental health together. Until next time, stay curious and keep smiling.